This is Pastor Jeff Chavis, the pastor of Church Online, an online community of faith located at churchonline.com, but we spell that differently. We spell it CHRCH because we say all that's missing is you, churchonline.com. This morning, of course, we are at the beginning of the Memorial Day weekend. Memorial Day, an important day, a day that we have set aside to remember those that have paid that ultimate price in the service to our country. It's also the day that we sort of think of as the unofficial start of summer. It'll be the day when there will be barbecues happening. Maybe people will even go camping this weekend. The weather starts to turn nice. Now, of course, it's not the actual summer. We're still a few weeks away from that. But I guarantee you this weekend, there will be that smell wafting through your neighborhood as it will be in mine. That barbecue smell, that especially the charcoal fire smell. When I say those words, I bet you could think of it. You can imagine that smell in your mind. We've smelled it so many times since we were kids. But do you also know that the word charcoal fire specifically is found in the New Testament 2 times in the Gospel of John? And I don't think it's by accident. I think there was a reason why John wrote those words, because they are connected to very significant events in the life of Peter. And I have this sense that when he smelled the charcoal fire, he thought of both of these things that happened. Let me take you to the first setting. The first time we hear about this is that night that Peter, again, will never forget. That night, Jesus had told them, "You will deny me 3 times." Peter said, "I never will." He says, "Before the rooster crows, I tell you, you will deny me 3 times." And he follows Jesus as Jesus is being placed on trial by the high priest, and they're questioning him. And the first time we hear those words is the first denial found in John's gospel. And this is John chapter 18, 17 and 18. Then a servant girl who kept the door said to Peter, "You are not also this man's disciple, are you?" He said, "I am not." Verse 18. Now the servants and the officers who made a charcoal fire, or a fire of coals, stood there, for it was cold, and they warmed themselves. And Peter stood with them and warmed himself. Get that picture in your mind. Peter walking in, trying to stay incognito, but there's this fire and he's cold. And specifically, it says it that way. Some of your Bibles say fire of coals, others charcoal fire. So imagine that. It may be sort of like a clay pot or some sort of not a barbecue, but a place where you put coals to stay warm. So that's the first place. And we know what happens next in the story. Peter continues to deny him 3 times, and then, yes, the rooster crows, just like Jesus said. I know Peter will never forget that day. We know that thing that Jesus said would happen, that he'd said never could happen, but it did. And we recognize that even after Jesus' death, burial, and resurrection, we know that that day was so heavy on his heart. But then we remember there was another day that was a little bit more uplifting for Peter. This is after the resurrection. Peter and some of the disciples that go back fishing. They're going to go back to what they knew, go back to the Sea of Galilee and cast their nets. And then they have this image of Jesus. Jesus comes and appears to them. They're on the sea, and just like he had done to them before, "Have you caught any fish?" "No, we haven't caught anything. We've been out here all night." "Well, cast your net on the other side." And they hauled in this miraculous catch of fish. And then we have the story for us in John chapter 21, verse 7 through 10. Therefore the disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, "It is the Lord." Now that Simon Peter heard it was the Lord, he put on his outer garment, for he had removed it, and plunged into the sea. But the other disciples came in the little boat. They were not far from the land, about 200 cubits, dragging the net with fish. Then, as soon as they had come on land, they saw a fire of coals there, and fish laid on it, and bread. And Jesus said to them, "Bring some fish, which you have just caught." Pause there. There is the charcoal fire again. Again, only 2 times mentioned in the New Testament quite this way. That charcoal fire, that fire of coals. In this case, you imagine that little beach setting, and I picture in my mind there's this little, made, put together very quickly, just a little fire, stones around it, maybe some sort of sticks that we can put the fish on standing by. But again, the charcoal fire, it's the smell. To Peter, the first time it's listed, not the first time he'd ever smelled it, I'm sure, but just burned so brightly in his mind, the denial. And we remember how this story goes, because there by that charcoal fire on the beach by the Sea of Galilee, Jesus is going to ask him 3 times, do you love me? Do you love me more than these? Do you love me? In other words, being reconciled back to Jesus for the 3 denials. So I have this sense that Peter, when he smelled the charcoal fire from that moment on, those 2 significant events came to his mind. I have that sense that maybe that charcoal fire reminds him of renewal, of restoration, of the forgiveness, the mercy, the grace of Jesus. So this weekend, I want to challenge you with that. I'm sure you'll smell the barbecue smell, the charcoal fire smell. But can it remind you of something more than just maybe chicken or hot dogs or hamburgers or something like that? Can it remind you of Peter? Can it remind you of an individual who denied but was restored? Because the truth is, Peter's story is our story. We're the same. We also deny him. How many times? Maybe more than 3 times. But Jesus, in his mercy and his grace, continues to restore us, renew us, forgive us. So that charcoal fire, can it remind us of forgiveness, the mercy, the grace of Jesus?